A whirlwind of depression and low self-esteem led her to choose abortion a second time. She struggled for over 20 years emotionally until she finally gave her life to Christ in 2003. The Lord has guided Saundra to help women hurting from their abortions. She's been active in sharing her testimony and ministering to post-abortive women. She recently founded Abortion Hurts, God Heals, a ministry of the Justice Foundation where she presides as the executive director. And she has a table outside, and afterwards I'm sure she'll be there to sell t-shirts, and we hope that you'll stop by at her table. So I please welcome our speaker tonight, that's Saundra Patton Decker.
I'm moving in. My mom is here, and she supplied me with Kleenex in my folder. So that's any indication. That song means so much to me. If you've been to a WVU football game before, Simple Gifts, I decided that would be played at my funeral. I just love it. It just brings so many wonderful memories to me, and wow, heebie-jeebies. Thank you so much for having me, West Virginians for Life, and Marianne Buchanan, who's been in contact with me. I live in San Antonio, Texas, and we've been kind of conversing back and forth, and I just really appreciate being here, and am honored to be back in West Virginia. I got to spend yesterday and today reminiscing, because I'm a graduate of the Mountaineer West Virginia Universities, and got to reminisce yesterday. First place I went was to the practice field where the band practices, and I got my photo on the 50-yard line. And then we went to the stadium and the Coliseum and all my apartments where I live. So it was really cool, reminiscing and just going back in the day. And I have to admit that I had some 80s music playing on my on my car radio. But, I never really imagined that I would be coming back here today to tell you about the most shameful decision that I had ever made in my life. But God has a plan. And so tonight, I can't think of anything more important to do than to share my story and my journey with you. The Lord's word says in Genesis 50, verse 20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." The ministry that I founded is called Abortion Hurts, God Heals. And our Bible verse is John 8:32, and that is, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." And with that being said, this is my story and my truth. So I'm going to go back in time. Oh, wait, before I do that, yeah, I may live in Texas, but I will always be a West Virginia girl. Perfect. So I'm going to go back in time just a little bit. No, that's a long bit because I'm in my 50s. So I was raised by two amazing parents, like so loving, so supportive, and always there for me, and just gave me the best childhood that I could possibly have. And I want to let you know that my mom is here with me. Her name's Eleanor Patton, and I met them in Pittsburgh just a couple days ago, and she traveled down here to be with me. So, Mom, could you stand up real quick? And yeah, come on. So I think I was my parents' dream child. Right, Mom? See? I have her trained. I had a spirit of love. I was happy. I was energetic. I was ambitious. I was goal-oriented and compliant. Right? Okay. Good. See, we practiced before we got here. But I had a great spirit when I was younger. And I started competing in competitions when I was 6. And the very first time that I had a competition, it was a talent show. It was in my hometown in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. And I was so excited to do this, and I actually won first place. And it was really awesome. But when I got first place, they announced my name. I went up on stage, and they gave me an envelope. And the envelope had $20 in it. Well, when you're 6, it's not cool. Okay, I wanted a trophy. So with my $20, my mom and dad, maybe it was just you, I'm not sure, but took me to a trophy store, and I got my very first trophy. And that was the very first trophy of, and I know this sounds kind of crazy, and you're going to see some pictures over here. By the time I was in high school, I had over 1,000 awards. I was in competitions almost every weekend, and sometimes accumulating 15 trophies each time that I would go. And each time that I went to a competition, my name and my picture were in the paper. That was me a few years ago. And yeah, so my dad was tired of having trophies in his house. And so they were in the shed in the back. And he said, just brought me back there that day and said, okay, what are we doing with these? Yeah, so, but yeah, I was so busy all the time and competitive. And you know, when you're competitive and you're successful, you begin to become, you know, more known in the public eye. People start looking at you as being successful, being a role model, and there's a lot of pressure that comes with that in being perfect and not making any mistakes. Well, I graduated from high school, and I headed to a place where I could be closer to God, which was West Virginia. And I was on a full paid performance scholarship for acting and theater arts. And amazing experience. I also got to be a twirler with the marching band from the years 1984 to 1988. That's me on that practice field I was telling you about. The pose. And again, you know, performing in front of 60,000 fans, you're singled out, and again, you're the role model, and people are looking to you to make the good decisions and make right decisions and not make any mistakes, not drop your baton, or have any life mistakes for that matter. But one of the things that I always had a goal of doing when I was little was I wanted to be in the Miss America pageant. And I think from that first trophy on, every year I watched Miss America, and I wanted to be walking that runway. And so those competitions and the performances, and 3 times trying to be Miss West Virginia, I finally won in 1987 and was crowned Miss West Virginia. I did bring my crown. It usually stays in the box, but here. This is the crown that I won as Miss West Virginia. So really, really awesome opportunity again, and putting myself in the position where everyone's looking at me to be perfect, right? Would you not assume that a beauty queen winner would probably need to be perfect? Well, I had 3 busloads of people go to Miss America, and from my hometown. So again, just the high time of my life, all those things that I'd worked for so hard all my years finally came to fruition, and I was able to be where I wanted to be. So I would say about 5 months after I gave up my title to the new Miss West Virginia, I found myself pregnant. And I need to tell you this because I think this is an important thing for you all to know and for all of you to tell your children. I did not have sex with the person who got me pregnant. We got very close, but we didn't actually have sex. I told him no, and I became pregnant. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was sitting in my parents' home on my bed that I grew up on, reading a pregnancy stick, and just, first of all, disbelief, but seeing it and thinking my life is over. I can't tell my parents. I can't disappoint them. I can't disappoint my hometown. I would be ashamed and embarrassed, and I just can't do anything to tell anyone. So I didn't. I kept silent about it. But I was getting ready to go to Dallas-Fort Worth because I just got hired by American Airlines as a flight attendant. I was going to go for 6 weeks, and then from 6 weeks of training, I would be sent wherever they based me in the United States. I had no idea. And I was pregnant. So I went to training, and about 3 weeks into training, I decided to have an abortion. And I don't say this with, pride. I say this because it was a selfish decision. I say this because I chose to do this because I was protecting my own image. I didn't think of this as my child. I just thought, I want to end this pregnancy because I can't be pregnant anymore. And so this is what I did. And there are so many different reasons that women choose to have abortions. Some women choose them just like I did, for shame of possibly having premarital sex, shame of being pregnant. Some can't afford to have a baby. Some think that they would interfere with the personal goals that they have. There may be a strained relationship with the father. They might not even know who the father is. They may have been coerced or forced to abort. Possibly the child won't be perfect. They might have a test that says your child's not going to be perfect, so we're going to need to abort. Rape or incest, and also the physical health of the mother. But again, my reason was to protect my reputation and not shame my family, not shame the people who thought that I had it all together. And one of the other things that I remember thinking before I went there was, it's legal, so it must be okay. But it wasn't. Proverbs 14 verse 12 says, there's a path before each person that seems right, but it ends in death. On the day of my abortion, I can tell you how I felt. I felt numb. It felt dark. It was horrifying, overwhelming, and I can remember thinking the words, I just want to die. I just want to die. I don't want to be here right now, and I don't want this happening right now to me. But I had to do it, so I went through with it. Well, from that point on, the denial begins. And I don't know if you know, but what happens after a woman has an abortion is she doesn't go out and tell all her friends. There's a denial that happens, and it's because we can't face what we did. You can't look at this and say, I just did this, I just took the life of my child. It's too painful to admit. So the only way to deal with this trauma is to put a mask on, just like you were before, and pretend everything's the same, but yet go on with your life and have your insides just turning and sick and just wasting away. But I had to keep trudging forward. I met my first husband a couple days after my abortion. We got married. It was kind of a short-term relationship. We got married, and I got pregnant again after we got married. And about 2 months after that, when he found out that I was pregnant, he did not want to have a child. He wanted to live the young married life and have fun, and he was in the military at the time and just really wanted to enjoy being married and without children. And because of where I was in my life at that time, I just decided, okay, I'll do what you want me to do. He made the arrangements. He drove me an hour and a half away so no one would know where we were. Had my abortion, came home, and I remember when I was sitting on my bed, or laying in my bed recovering, he sat at my bedside and he told me, we're not going to tell anyone about this. We can't say anything to anyone. No one can know that we did this. So we're going to move on and we're going to forget this ever happened. Do you understand? And I said yes. And so that's what happened. Well, when you don't tell, when you're holding something in that's so painful that you can't even deal with, consequences begin. Consequences begin. A fungus starts small and it starts growing throughout your entire body until it overtakes you. And that's exactly what happened to me. But I still had my mask on. So my mom, she didn't even know. She had no earthly idea for 20 years because I had my mask on. Psalm 32 verses 3 and 4 says, when I refused to confess my sin, my body wasted away, and I groaned all day long. Day and night, your hand of discipline was heavy on me. My strength evaporated like water in the summer heat. Mask was on, but inside I was dying. I had nightmares where I would wake up on the floor in another room in my house, just crying and screaming and not really knowing why that was happening. I started binge eating. I became very private. I mean, you're talking about someone who just walked the Miss America runway, and I didn't want to leave my apartment. I wanted to be inside. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I lived in a verbally and emotionally abusive marriage while trying to survive my husband's pornography and strip club habit. I struggled to redeem myself. What can I do to accomplish something so that I can feel better? But every time I tried to accomplish something, it was knocked down. I wasn't successful, and I was always left feeling empty. I searched for approval from the opposite sex. They could lift me up. They could make me feel better. They could make me feel like someone special. I had an unhealthy obsession with work to escape the pain. There was this one time when I was a flight attendant that a passenger handed me a baby, and she said, "I need to use the lav. Will you hold my baby?" And I said, "Sure," not thinking of anything. And I had the baby in my arms, and I just tensed up. I felt cold and uncomfortable and not right. And the baby started screaming. And I just felt like everybody on the plane was staring at me like, "Why aren't you comforting this child? What's wrong with you?" But I couldn't. I didn't know how. So babies, baby showers, things like that. Baby showers when my friends were becoming pregnant and they'd bring their babies over. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to hold them. Had wanted nothing to do with babies. I didn't feel worthy of having children for years, so I didn't. I thought, if I have a child, something's going to happen to my child, and it's going to be my fault because of what I did. I knew that in my heart. I really, really felt that. I was swimming in the deep waters while I was held in my shame and guilt. And by the way, I can't swim. After 10 years of that marriage, I had a divorce, went through a divorce. I finally gained enough strength to leave my husband, and that was my rock bottom. I was falling apart. Psalm 6, verses 2 and 3 says, "Have compassion on me, O Lord, please, for I am weak. Heal me, Lord, for my bones are in agony. I am sick at heart. How long, O Lord, until you restore me?" Well, at my rock bottom, I began my search for God. Really, really searching, really looking, trying to figure out who God was and would he even love me or care about me or like me or accept me. Well, during my search, I met my current and final husband, Mike, and he's amazing. But when he asked me to marry him, I told him about my first abortion, but I didn't tell him about both because it was too embarrassing to share about the second one. And he was the first person to tell me that God would forgive me. He told me about Paul in the Bible and how he was a killer of Christians, but God forgave him and he used him. And I said, "Okay, I hear you, but why would he forgive me? I just can't accept that. I'm the one that did it. I'm the one that went there. I could have said no, but I didn't, so I didn't. I couldn't believe it. But it was my first light or glimpse of hope. Well, we found a church, and we went to this church event called Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames, and it's a drama. And I don't know if y'all have seen that before, but it was amazing. And that night, I gave my life to Christ, and God began to work in my heart. Now, I want to tell you, I gave my life to Christ, but I didn't give him my abortions. I held on to those because those were too big for God in my eyes. Well, again, I'm married to Mike, and I become a stepmom of 2, and God puts it on my heart to be pregnant. And so I got pregnant, and I have a little girl. She's 10, and she's amazing. And her name's Cassidy. And when I had her on July 21st, and I never had another period. I went through menopause during the time that I had her. So the timing that God gave me to have Cassidy is a miracle. He spoke to me about wanting to get pregnant, and he gave me a gift. And I can tell you right now, she loves the Lord. She loves the Lord with all of her heart. Sunday, she wrote a worship song, and she's going to be singing that at our church on Sunday. And she knows who her creator is. She knows who her maker is. And she knows who God is. And I'm so grateful for that. Here's her picture, if you can see it. My dog, too. My dog's like a kid. So, after Cassidy was born, she was about a year and a half old. I was going to church, walking with God. She's born, everything's going great, but all of a sudden I started having these nightmares and paranoia that something was going to happen to her. I thought I'd go check on her. She's not going to be breathing. We're going to be in an accident. She's going to die. It's going to be my fault because I'm holding on to my abortion still. And around that same time, I was at church, and our pastor showed a video with some women who were post-abortive, and they were sharing about the pain of their abortion. And I just saw it, and I was just shocked. I had never seen anything like that before or heard anything like that before, and it just spoke to my heart. God spoke to my heart, and he said, "This is for you." And there was a class at my church, and it was a post-abortion healing class, and our pastor said, we have this class, and I knew I was supposed to go. I knew God said, this is for you right now, right here, and you need to go. And I had courage, but I crawled into class because I was so embarrassed someone would see me walk into that class. But every week that I went, it was amazing. God just healed my heart. I was able to go through grief. Women who miscarry, they have a chance to grieve their losses. But when you choose to abort, you don't think you have a right to grieve your loss because you chose that for your child. But God has a time for everything, and he has a time to grieve, and he gave me that time. And during that time, I was able to honor and give recognition to my 2 children who are in heaven without a doubt in Jesus' arms. And I can guarantee you that when I die and take my last breath here on earth, that I will see them in heaven, and I will be able to run to them and give them a hug and just hold them and thank the Lord. These are my shoes that I've purchased to honor Christian Scott. And then Nicole Rose is my second child in heaven with Jesus. So then I confessed my sins to you in Psalm 32, verse 5. I did not conceal my wrongdoings. I decided to confess them to you, and you forgave all my sins. So finally, after 20 years, freedom and forgiveness. So beautiful. Psalm 30, verses 11 and 12. You have turned my mourning into joyful dancing. You have taken away my clothes of mourning and clothed me with joy, that I might sing praises to you and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give you thanks forever. So after class, after being able to be free of the sin of abortion and memorialize my children, God put a fire in my heart so strong, and I didn't know what to do with it, but I felt that God wanted me to lead a class. So I started leading a class, a post-abortion healing class for women, and it was an amazing experience. But he kept telling me, you need to speak. You need to speak. You need to share your story. And I kept saying, no, I don't think so. So, because I was Miss West Virginia, remember, and still fighting this battle, like I can't do that. I can't tell anyone. But every time that he put it on my heart, if I was faithful to listen to him, he proved that there was a reason for that. He proved that if I shared it with one woman, she would tell me, I've had an abortion too. And she would cry, just like Jennifer. She was one of the ladies that I shared with, and everything changed for her. God changed her life. And so he kept telling me this. I kept fighting it. And I want to let you know that I went to an Amazing Grace reunion. Amazing Grace retreat. And at this retreat, I had a nightmare the first night of retreat. And my nightmare was that I was standing high up on the outside of a building on a ledge. It was in the corner. I had one foot on one corner and one foot in the other corner, and I had my hands like this, and I was frozen. I couldn't move, and I would look up and I would see there was a window, but I was too afraid to move. And then I woke up. And what God showed me on that retreat was that I was the one that was fearful, and that he would take my fear away if I let him to speak. He would take that away. He would give me courage to speak, and he has done that. He's done that in a huge way. I know that my story is helping to change lives. I know that he has his hand on all of it. So Acts 18 verses 9 and 10 says, "Do not be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent, for I am with you." And he is. And it's amazing and beautiful what's happening. So since speaking out kept going and women were being healed, more women wanted to do something too. They wanted to speak too. They wanted to do the same thing. And so from this, God put it on our heart to start a ministry called Abortion Hurts, God Heals. And we started out with just doing a panel event. We're going to just have some of our women, and we're going to share at churches and retreats and wherever we're called to do. And we started doing that, but God opened the door for a radio program. And it wasn't something we were looking for, but we're, again, being encouraged by the Lord in our hearts, and just decided to follow him, and he would provide what we needed. So my partner, Virginia, and I decided to do a demo, and we were accepted. And so now we have a radio program that's a weekly radio program on AM 630 KSLR in South Texas. And we're on weekly. We have amazing interviews with people who've been through abortion, men, women, men who have been conceived in rape, people who have been raped but chose life. I mean, just amazing stories, and he keeps providing all of this. And all of this in Abortion Hurts, God Heals. We actually go to universities too. This was taken at the University of Texas in Austin. We've been to Texas A&M, University of Texas in San Antonio, and we're just going to keep going as God provides and opens the doors, because we're out speaking to students at colleges, telling our stories. We're not just pointing fingers, but we're saying this is what it's like, and this is how it happened for us, and it hurts. And even if they just hear us say abortion hurts, they're going to remember that. They may tell their friend that, wants to have an abortion. Don't do that. I heard some lady talk, and she said it hurts, so I don't know if this is something that you want to do. But God has a plan. He has a plan, and he's working really fervently right now in the United States of America. So I do want to share some abortion statistics with you. I'm not sure if you are aware, but 43% of American women will have at least one abortion by the time they're 43. 1 out of every 3 women of childbearing age has had an abortion. You most likely know someone who has, but most likely they're hurting in silent shame. There have been close to 60 million abortions in America since Roe v. Wade made abortion legal in 1973. Those lives lost would make up the population of both California and Texas combined. Planned Parenthood, our friends, largest abortion provider in the United States, has aborted approximately 101,324 babies just since January 2017. Abortion is one of the most common surgical procedures in the United States. I want you to realize, if you're walking in the pro-life journey, that the enemy is in the midst of all this, and you can hear that in the story that I told you. He deceives those that are most vulnerable, filling their hearts with lies. You're going to hear, well, it's just a blob of tissue. It's a fetus, not a person. It's just a quick fix. You're going to be fine. You can move on. You don't have to worry about it anymore after it's over. It's just a quick fix. Those who choose abortion will be able to move on with no regrets or shame. Abortion is health care for women. It's not health care. And money. Money is the root. A Los Angeles Planned Parenthood office quoted abortion procedures and their cost ranging from $648 for an 11 to 11 and a half week abortion to $3,275 for a baby at 22 to 24 weeks gestation. And another lie for post-abortive or anyone involved in abortion. Abortion is not the unforgivable sin. But you know that that's not true. Because you know me. And God's redeemed me and set me free. So you know the truth. Those 1 out of 3 women that you know can be forgiven and set free from the sin of abortion. John 10:10. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Now, as you journey forward in your fight for life, remember to approach the topic of abortion with compassion and love, because there are so many people holding on to the guilt and shame that we don't want to push them away. These are people that God can use. They need to be given hope. They need to be loved, and they need to be healed, and they need to be empowered to share their stories. And in doing so, their voices will help change laws and continue to help others who have fallen into the lies and deception of abortion. It's a trickle effect. Revelation 12:11, the Lord says they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Thank you so much for listening to my story, for having me here. It's been an amazing experience. I love West Virginia. I love the Lord so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, she said her mom gave her Kleenex. She should have given me some, too. Well, in 1973, 7 unelected justices of the Supreme Court of the United States decided for all Americans that abortion was a constitutional right for women. They overturned laws in all 50 states at that time, and the precedent of nearly 200 years. No one believes that abortion is hidden somewhere in our Constitution. And the 1973 decisions created a moral and constitutional crisis for us here in America, which continues 44 years later. Since 1973, as we've heard, over 60 million unborn human beings have been killed, more deaths than in all the wars we've ever fought. The pro-life movement is working to correct these crises by working within the law as provided by the Constitution of our country. There is really no country in the world that provides for the free expression of speech and association that makes possible the ability of people to change laws. And believe me, I've met with an awful lot of international pro-life people, and we are truly blessed to be Americans. But it's been a long, slow process to try to return America to its values as were expressed in the Declaration of Independence, where every human person is given inherent dignity and the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From the beginning, the pro-life movement has been up against the most powerful of forces. We've had to fight against the courts, the media, the big business of the abortion industry, and those who would use the decision to hide their sexual indiscretions. Now, on your table, there's a brochure, and we also have more of them out on the table out front. It was developed by West Virginians for Life, called Becca's Story. Becca should be here tonight. She wasn't able to come because she's at home with a sick baby. But Becca's story describes her rape as a naive college freshman and the pressure her rapist put on her to have an abortion. She gave birth to her baby instead and is today a happily married mother of 5. Her story starkly portrays the fact that abortion does nothing to help women and everything to help sexual predators. And I'd like for Cheryl, where are you? Cheryl Carr? Right, there you are. Stand up. Cheryl is the one who developed this beautiful brochure for us. Thank you so much. I'm very proud of Cheryl and the work that she's done for us. We also have some other things. In addition, I want to say that our staff works very hard and has accomplished so many goals with very few resources. So I'd like for the staff to stand up. Where are we? Do we have Brandy there? Okay, excellent. Thank you. These are the folks that do all of the work in the background, that do all the writing and the stuffing and all of the things that are necessary to keep our organization working the way it has. We urge you to join us in working to restore the constitutional order and correct the injustices of over 60 million dead babies and the millions of grieving women in America, including many in this room, including our keynote speaker. West Virginians for Life is the only single-issue grassroots organization in the state, and we work hard with limited resources to do the education, legislation, and political work of the pro-life movement. There are some envelopes on your table. These are for the Educational Trust Fund donations, which are one-time donations, and they are tax deductible. You can fill out the coupon inside the envelopes. Anyone can give. That includes individuals, corporations, churches. You know, we live in a very highly structured culture right now with so many rules, but all of these donations are tax deductible. You can make them out to the Educational Trust Fund, which funds our educational events. We would like to ask you to give generously and support us in our work as the only real pro-life organization here in the state, and we're going to have people going around collecting your donations. Excuse me. The students, by the way, I'd like to say that we have students from West Virginia University from our pro-life group there. Would you stand up? We appreciate very much that they're here, and we'd like to ask you to place your the envelopes in the baskets as they come around, and we are going to be hearing from music now from Derek Jones, who's going to sing, and Corey Rexroad, who's going to play the guitar. They're from Chestnut Ridge Worship Program.
Child there for the thought of your amazing grace. I said, Jesus, forgive me, but I fall down to my knees with a camera in my hand. Would you look at me? I'm so bad, forgiven, forgiven. Child, there is freedom from your bed. Say goodbye to every sin. You are forgiven. Could have been 6 feet under, could have been lost forever. I should have that fire, now there's fireside. Here I am, a dead man walking, no grief, no hope, just people. Oh, you know I'm able, lifted away forever free. Who could believe, who could believe? Forgiven, forgiven. You love me even when I don't deserve it. Forgiven, I am forgiven. Jesus, your love makes me innocent. And I feel say goodbye to every sin. You are forgiven. I am forgiven.
Thank you so much, Derek and Corey. We really appreciate the music tonight. And I just want to also point out that you can help the pro-life movement by becoming a Rose Society member. These pamphlets are also on your table. And these are for people who are committed to sending in a monthly amount, in whatever amount is deemed best. And they receive monthly, we receive these monthly dollars, and we really rely on them and appreciate the money that comes in on a monthly basis. You will receive one monthly reminder and no other fundraising except for the membership mailing and the PAC mailings. So please consider also looking at this, and you can fill these out and leave them with a member of the staff or mail them in. And if you do take envelopes, we hope that you will remember to mail them in as soon as you get home. So thank you so much. Thank everyone. I really appreciate you all being here tonight. It's been a great joy for me.
Abortion clinics will tell you that a wide variety of feelings are normal and that serious long-term emotional problems after abortion are the same as after childbirth. On the other hand, pregnancy counseling centers quote studies that show that women who have an abortion have 6 to 7 times more suicides, as well as a myriad of other effects. Again, with extremes in the health information, who is a woman supposed to trust? Could abortion be having negative psychological effects? Is there more that we can learn to better support women pre- and post-abortion?
It was my ex-husband and myself who aborted my second child. And, you know, for him, he was able to just say, you know, let's just forget about it. You know, I don't want to make sure nobody knows about this at my workplace. I don't want anyone to know. So it created so many anger issues within me because he could forget about it. My current husband, I was having anger issues towards him, and I had no idea why I was mad at him. I was just angry with men because it was an easy out for them, and I had to deal with it. It's like vomiting almost. It's like you get sick, you push it down, and then all of a sudden it all comes out. And I know this is kind of a weird way to think about it, but when you throw up, you feel better after you throw up. Well, for me, it was like getting rid of all of that.
and letting it out for the first time. And all of this weight just came off of my shoulders, and I could start to begin to feel the freedom. And one of the most amazing things is to see, after I share a story and I walk away from the microphone, to have someone come up and just, I've done what you've done, and you just give them a hug and you hold them, and it's the first step for them.
I was that woman, and you were on the other side. There was no words spoken, just pain. And that hug changed my life. And that is our hope, you know. Moving forward, it's nothing but love. There's no judgment. Yes. Nothing but love. We just want that hug